Back at home, feeling misunderstood, and between these ears ain't nothing good.
All right, I'll let you take up 40 minutes of basketball. Now let's do 20 minutes of football and 20 minutes of football for the YouTube channel because it's not close enough to the draft and we're not through March Madness yet to start taking up a lot of time with that. But there's been some pretty big things that happened in the NFL world. So let's talk about the free agency. And then I did have my first position rankings for quarterbacks. I did quarterbacks first. I'll do linemen next week. But let's start with just some of the news that happened. The 49ers, they fell in love with somebody and
we don't know who it is yet, but they fell in love with somebody.
I have a good idea of who it is, but they definitely have. It's not like they moved up to 3 and go, I hope somebody's here. They move up to 3 and they're like, no,
They have a belief. They know how number 1 is going to go. Mm-hmm. They think they know how number 2 is going to go. So they obviously have someone in mind.
Whoever they like, they think Atlanta or somebody will trade with Atlanta to get whoever they want. I think that. I was listening to the local Denver show, and this basically, I agree with this. Basically means that the first 4 picks are going to be quarterbacks
because first at minimum 3.
Yeah, at minimum 3, probably first 4, because Atlanta can probably. I think Atlanta's in the way Matt Ryan's contract is set up. They're best to draft somebody and let him sit for a couple years behind him so that they can eat more of his contract. But they went up from 12 to 3, basically gave up their first rounders next year and then a couple third rounders as well. And then Miami, because apparently they're just playing Monopoly at this point.
Miami, they got the steal of the draft because they got 2 more first round picks. They traded back to 12.
They had like 8 first round picks in the next 3 years.
And then they got back up to 6 because they obviously want Devontae Smith and they see how the first 5 are more than likely going to go and they're still going to get Tua's receiver.
I still think they want Jamar Chase.
Okay, they're going to get one of those 2.
Yeah, they're one of those 2.
But
I don't know. I don't know how they bamboozled Philadelphia. Because
Philadelphia is also a shithole right now.
Well, but you got to stay at 6 and draft them. You know that they've passed on DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson in the past 2 years, and for guys that don't play. Jalen Reagor doesn't play, and I don't even remember the guy that they drafted before.
There was also rumors that the Eagles were interested in a quarterback at 6. There was those rumors out there too. I mean, poor Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
poor Jalen Hurts. I hope he gets moved on to a better situation because they're already rumored to possibly be in the Russell Wilson sweepstakes. That's also a team that I don't think they're ever going to get him, but they're in that sweepstakes, and they were possibly looking to move on from Jalen Hurts already.
I don't know what the hell any of this means because honestly right now the 49ers are in a position they traded all the way up like that and then they come back out and say that Jimmy Garoppolo is their guy. Okay,
Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
Okay, Cliff Kingsbury.
Come on now. It's probably not going to be that way. And that's who you have to worry about being on the move. It's not like John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are going anywhere. They are signed there for as long as they want. The DiBartolo family has basically put those 2 in place to run the team how they want to. So at some point, I think Jimmy G is probably going to end up in New England or something like that.
More than likely, yeah.
That's going to happen at some point. But I really do. I mean, maybe they keep him around because the guy that I think they're interested in, and we'll talk about him a little bit more when we get to my rankings because he's in my top 3 of quarterbacks. But Trey Lance from North Dakota State. Mainly because I know the offense that the Shanahans like to run, and Trey Lance in that offense, if he learns the playbook for a couple years under Jimmy Garoppolo, the athleticism that kid has on the bootleg West Coast offense, come on now.
I'll be honest with you. I thought you were gonna say Justin Fields, because at 3, I think the 49ers could have got the 4th pick or the 6th pick and still got Lance. Because I think there's a better shot Fields goes 3, or because if the Dolphins stayed there, they still would have probably picked a receiver. And then at 4, that's where the other quarterback position would have came in play. You could have gotten him at 6 because obviously the Eagles didn't want the 6th pick.
It all comes down to the ceiling that you see Trey Lance having, and I'll save that for when we talk about that more. But I think that 49ers are drafting a quarterback, and I think Jimmy Garoppolo, whether it's this year or possibly next year, he's no longer going to be in San Francisco. That's all but sealed at this point.
Yeah, there's still sourness in San Francisco that Jimmy G was the reason why they lost, because that team was pretty stacked all around.
I'll say that it was Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan, and the fact that Kyle Shanahan didn't trust Jimmy G enough to just put the game, at least give him a shot to win.
That's fair.
Don't try and take it out of his hands and then handicap the rest of your team. But also, there's some other things. I did a live reaction to that Super Bowl when I had center of attention, and it was almost like he just couldn't stand the fact that Jimmy G was his quarterback. He wanted somebody else.
That's true.
Other news in the NFL before we get to my draft rankings. Free agency. I wanted to talk a little bit about what the Bengals have done, because we've talked plenty about what the Broncos have done. But there's now talk that the Bengals aren't going to go offensive line at 5 because they've signed some, I'd say, stopgaps. Reef, who was a tackle in Minnesota, he's 32.
He's pretty good.
He's good. No, I'm not saying that he's not good, but he's 32, and he's getting a little bit older. And I know what the Bengals do with older tackles, and that's, you're gone. And then they go to Los Angeles and play in Super Bowls. But that's my own gripe. That's not anything anybody else has to worry about.
As a person of a team that's swung and missed on some linemen or
Juwan James?
Yeah, people like that, I think you should be in the possibility of having because the Bengals right now, okay, obviously Penei Sewell is the diamond in the rough, the left tackle of the future. But I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm the Bengals, I would almost take the safe route and get Jamar Chase. Because, look, Penei Sewell is the sexy pick. You can have a left tackle for the future. What if he doesn't pan out? For me, Jamar Chase right now, that's a lock of a 1-2 duo. Because do me a favor, if you're a Bengals fan, go watch the 2019 LSU highlights. Just go watch that. And then think in the back of your mind, oh my God, that can happen for 16 games of our season. Go watch those highlights and be like, why the hell would I not? I originally, at the beginning of the season, I said Bengals can stay within that 5 to 10 range. Jamar Chase will be there. Because I was in the thinking of, you know what, why the hell not pair these two together? Because you get Joe Burrow his weapon. You have some fill-in tackles for if you struggle offensive line next year. You go always to college football. Yeah. And if Penei Sewell doesn't pan out, you more than likely will have a number 1 receiver, because your receiving core then is Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, which is a great 1-2 punch. Tyler Boyd, another one, and then all you have to do is secure up the tight end position, and that's why I think Jamar Chase is that. I guess you're going to say Kyle Pitts, but I think Jamar Chase should be the lock there.
Hear me out. Now I got to pull up the draft order. But I think that move that the 49ers did, if I was smart and I was in the Bengals draft room, which we already know that doesn't exist, but with this move, I think that the Bengals should trade back. Not too far, because I don't want to trade too far back and then miss out on Jamar Chase.
Yeah, then you can,
But
I think you fall back below 6, then you're either going to get Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase. I think you sit where you're at, because there's no doubt at 6 the Dolphins are going to go receiver.
I'm saying trade back and try and get a very talented, maybe trade back with Carolina, and then you get at 8 you get your receiving threat, and then you get another. I think you need to trade back and get more picks, because if you don't go Penei Sewell at 5 and shore up your offensive line for the future, you need to get a receiver, plus you still need to draft an offensive line.
I'm going to guarantee you right now, Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell will not be there at 8. That's a guarantee. So you're not going to get one of those two. And I think those are the two.
Then you drafted Penei Sewell at 5. I don't care.
Okay, then that's the way it goes, because you won't get either of those at 8. I guarantee you that. And if you're the Bengals, you don't come out away with either of those two, then you had a terrible draft. I'm going to be honest with you. Because if you don't come out away with Jamar Chase, which is Joe Burrow's friend, or Penei Sewell left tackle, it's a wash. So you don't trade back from 8.
No, I that's what I was saying. If I could get both of those two, then I'm fine with not drafting Sewell at 5. But if I'm going to hedge my bet on this, the guy's a number 1 overall person at his position, and the guy's projected to be an all-pro offensive player in the NFL. Penei Sewell is that good in college, and offensive line's a little bit easier to project when you go to the NFL. So I wouldn't not take a sure thing and then bet on being able to fill a position a little bit later.
There's still a lineman in this draft that
No,
you
there
can get
is,
in the
but
second
if it's
round.
not Penny Sewell or Rashawn Slater, I don't want him right now. That's my only thing. I want the best of the best because
then Joe Burrow is throwing to scrubs out there for another year, though.
But it'd
That's
be
the
healthy.
next thing. The way I see the way free agency has gone, Jamar Chase is the odds on because you wouldn't have got free agents left tackles and right tackles.
We'll see.
Like that wouldn't have happened because you would have addressed the wide receiver need in free agency, and they didn't.
No, they didn't, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. They've signed their other two signings on defense. They signed Larry Ogunjobi from the Browns, so stole him from in division, and then they got Hendrickson from New Orleans, which was surprising at first, but I was actually pretty happy with that one because they lost Carl Lawson, and he makes up the pass rushing presence that they lost with that. So that's what the Bengals have done so far in free agency. Nico and I's argument there about what knows what they're going to do in the draft, especially the Bengals.
No one really knows what anyone's going to do.
No, it's a total crapshoot. Speaking of that, I'm going to go ahead and I'll get into it. First one, Trevor Lawrence. And my reasoning, he's 6'6" and 220 pounds. The best prospect at the quarterback position since Peyton Manning. I think he's better than Andrew Luck he was in college. And he's got some upside to him to where he can be a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback at the NFL level, I think. I have his basement player comparison at Nick Foles, so he's still a Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP. And his ceiling is Peyton Manning and possibly more. That's where I see it.
The problem with that, with your comparisons, is he will be in Jacksonville with Urban Meyer. If he falls to the Jets somehow, I know it's weird for me saying this as a Jets hater all regular season.
All the time, yeah.
I think it'd be a much better situation with him on Jets because the Jaguars. I don't know what to think about the Jaguars anymore. The NFL right now, I'll be honest with you, wants Trevor Lawrence in New York too. They don't want him washing away in Jacksonville.
They're already trying to pump Zach Wilson up as the star so that
Yeah,
they can make
they're
up
they're
for
already they're
Lawrence
trying
not
to
being in New York.
yeah they're trying to figure something out because Trevor Lawrence, I think Jacksonville is going to continue what they usually do, and that's not get him help, or they'll get him help and then just completely wash away everything. Because if you remember, this Jaguars team, all the stars they had on their team 4 years ago, 4 years ago?
Actually, 5 years ago. It was 2017.
2017, and they knocked off the Steelers. They got to the conference championship.
They should have beat the Patriots but lost on a bad call.
Lost on a bad call, and that team, there is not a single returning starter, I believe, from that team. Not a single one. And
I think the Broncos had the last one, which was Bouye.
Yeah, they that team completely washed away. And if I'm Trevor Lawrence, why the hell would you want to be there for longer? Because that's a situation where if I'm Trevor Lawrence, why the fuck not pull John Elway? Because if you're Trevor Lawrence and you're looking at your image, you could be possibly one of the top quarterbacks in this league, but you're going to go play in Jacksonville where they're not even the second best, third best team in the state. And you're supposed to be the face of that organization, of the state, or in New York, you will be the face of New York football. Like that's a situation where I wouldn't be surprised if that happens within the next month. I'll be that's nothing against Jaguars and their fans, but if you're Trevor Lawrence, why the hell would you want to go to Jacksonville?
Maybe it's the Jets that blowing up Zach Wilson so hard. Because I think Zach Wilson's a little bit overrated at this point.
Maybe they're trying to blow him up enough where the Jacksonville Jaguars fuck up.
Yeah, that's what I'm... Just get the Jaguars in their head just enough. They probably won't even draft Zach Wilson, but they'll think about it just enough that they'll draft somebody other than Trevor.
If you're the Jets, you hype up Zach Wilson and Justin Fields as much as you fucking can.
Hey, look,
as much as you
this
can.
guy, Trey Lance, he went to the same college as Carson Wentz.
You hype those up
Jacksonville,
as much as
you remember? You recruited Justin Fields to Ohio State. You remember? That's all New York should be doing to Jacksonville. But if he ends up being my basement comparison and Nick Foles, that means that he's not winning a Super Bowl on his original team, so I'll take it. Because he's going to probably end up somewhere interesting, and we'll have a new Super Bowl champion.
Sure.
My second best quarterback in this draft is actually Trey Lance, and it's mainly because of the athleticism factor. I think he's more athletic than Justin Fields. He's a little bit bigger than Justin Fields is, and he has a little bit stronger of an arm. He's 19, which is interesting. He's going to be coming in an ideal situation.
Shouldn't be a starter right away.
doesn't play for a year, possibly 2. Just like drinking, you can't play until you're 21, unless injuries happen, and then all bets are off. But I think he's going to end up in a good situation in San Francisco, unless he ends up getting drafted second by New York, and then it's not a terrible situation. He'll be with Robert Saleh, but
Yeah.
I think he's going to get drafted into the situation with Kyle Shanahan, and we're about to see what a damn good athlete at the quarterback position is going to do in this new style of West Coast offense that Kyle Shanahan's figured out. Because remember a couple years ago when they were going into the Super Bowl, they didn't really use Jimmy G in the playoffs. They had
they ran the ball.
Yeah, they had an
80
immaculate
times in
run
the
game.
conference championship.
Offensive lineman, fullback wise, beautiful run, total beauty. But they're going to add a quarterback now that can actually make plays, and possibly make plays with his feet. He's an electric runner.
The only slight I have with what you just said was what Justin Fields' pro day looked like today, with that 4.40.
And you know what all those teams did to him today? Hey, you want to play receiver?
Well, I mean, they could be doing that to Trey Lance.
Well, I don't know. Justin Fields to me, he's my third. It's my top 3 are Lawrence, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields. And he did earn some points back with me. I've never liked him. I don't think that he's got.
There's no doubt that you are a constant Ohio State hater. So
That, and even when he was back in QB1, he was just arrogant, and it's not a confidence; it's arrogance. He thinks that he is the best, and you have to have that, but it's not like he hasn't really done anything to deserve it. He's never won a championship anywhere. He's never really won at the highest level. He's talented, could possibly. I have his ceiling being probably Dak Prescott, maybe even a little career out of Justin Fields.
I still think Justin Fields can be a solid quarterback. I think it just depends on the situation. Because I think he goes to Carolina, he could be a very good quarterback. I think if he's in Atlanta and gets to sit behind Matt Ryan for a year or 2, I think that's a good situation.
That's probably where it'll be.
Or it'll be more likely. So that's maybe Philadelphia if they decide they still want a quarterback and try to trade up. I don't know.
If they
you throw the Broncos in that ring too, because the Broncos have been interested in him a little bit. I doubt he falls at 9 though.
That'd be interesting. But you want to know my basement comparison for Justin Fields?
Famous Jameis.
Same as Jameis Winston.
Hey, Jameis is going to be a starting quarterback next year.
Maybe.
He is the starting quarterback.
Where?
In New Orleans. He signed in New Orleans.
I didn't even know he signed.
He signed in New Orleans.
Oh, so they're not eating dubs in New Orleans anymore?
Well, they signed Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. So
So he's not a starting quarterback.
He will be a starting quarterback at some point because Taysom Hill is not a quarterback.
At some point, possibly. We'll see. So that's my top 3 quarterback rankings for this year's draft. And I'll have my tackles. Probably I'll do tackles, and I won't lump them all in together at once. But that's.
Only slight I have with that. I mean, look, this class is pretty good. I heard a lot about Mac Jones his pro day today. I didn't hear a lot of good things though. I saw a lot of winces and be like, a lot of I don't know about this.
He's so unathletic and such. I'd be worried about him getting hit by one of these NFL defensive linemen and exploding.
I saw the funniest meme. It was like the grown-ups scene where it's the 2 daughters that are really good looking, and it's Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, and there's Mac Jones being the not so good looking one.
It's 110%. By the way, Mac is short for McCorkle.
For what?
McCorkle.
McCorkle?
His name is McCorkle Jones.
Oh God! Do not draft him now. Stay away.
His name is McCorkle
Stay
Jones.
away. If that's true, no. Stay away.
If that's true,
do not let that happen.
Oh.
I trust you that's right, but do not draft him.
It's
Whatever.
McCorkle.
I hope he ends up on the Patriots now, because that's a match made in heaven.
There you go, Jim. You're gonna draft McCorkle. All right, let's go ahead and get into the break. Listen to a couple messages from our partners, and then when we get back, we'll break down the Elite 8 and possibly some of the Final Four matchups as this Michigan-UCLA game's still going on. That's coming up here on the second half for the far end of the bench on the Unhinged Sports Network. That was like 102, so we're good.
We're what?
102. The camera's still recording.
You're right.